Okay, if you want to get that door just for the sound, or I guess if it's all right back there. Well, thank you guys for coming tonight. So yes, as you saw on the invitation that you got, and what we've got sitting up here, right? Learning how to retire, live in retirement, how not to run out of money. I think as I talk to people, I've been in this business a few years now, and as I talk to people, this seems to be the main concern anymore, is making sure that we don't run out of money. So tonight, we're going to go through a couple of different things, give you a couple of different ideas about what it is that we're trying to do. So I like to start off talking about who this presentation is for. And I'm talking to individuals and to families. I mean, tonight we're talking to those of you who have retired or on the verge of retirement, but there's a lot of the principles that we do that can also help kids. And as I talk to those retiring, I do often get questions about, well, what do you do for younger generations and preparing to get to this point? Also, I'm a small business owner, so I speak to small business owners on a regular basis about a lot of these same different ideas in the investment and tax strategies. And then when it comes to some of the high net worth individuals, really we're talking about some out of the box type ideas and just having another option to utilize different ways that maybe they aren't doing with their normal advisors. And you know, a lot of them have a couple of different advisors. At the same time, who is this presentation not for? Well, there's no get rich quick schemes here tonight, so you don't have to worry about any MLM pitch, right? The hot stocks, we don't even really want to talk about the stock market right now, but we're right, that is Mr. Kramer from Mad Money, right? When he says, right, I'm gonna hit that button, that's a stock that you buy. Well, if you go back and look at some of the track records, I don't know. We won't get into that. And tonight we're not going to talk about cryptocurrency, although if you do want to, we're more than willing to have that conversation at a different time. But here's the goal of this presentation. This is what I'm trying to accomplish and what I'm trying to help you guys understand, is really to show you the only way to have a successful retirement plan and the 5 critical steps that you must have to protect it, okay? So 5 steps that we can do to figure out how to protect it. And really to show you the most tax efficient and safe manner to grow and protect your retirement. This can really truly mean, and it has for many of our clients, that it can help you avoid paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes depending on the right strategies, how we use them, when we use them, when we implement them. One of those strategies that I utilize, and what I mean by that is it possible to get to the 0% tax bracket? Or how much of our money, how much of our retirement, how much of our plan as we go forward can we get into that 0% tax bracket? Because I don't want to outlive my money, right? Nobody wants to outlive their money. If you look at the studies done online, if you want to believe what you read online, right? If you ask how many people are worried about dying and how many people are worried about running out of money, this percentage is way higher on those worried about running out of money, even over dying. So I talk a lot about getting to the 0% tax bracket, or the power of zero. And there's some great information out there that we'll share as we go through this. Really, what I'm looking at here is having more money to spend in retirement. And the way that we've done that is, in today's volatile environment, many Americans are running out of money because they've been taught both how to save and how to spend all wrong. And we're discussing what I mean by that in this regard. It's not about the amount of assets that you have, but rather how you're going to turn those assets into income. So as we go through this today, there's a lot of conversation about what we do to grow that nest egg so that we don't outlive it. Now, just for the sake of legalities, the information we share tonight is just generic information, right? It's not something for you to go make a decision off of just what we discussed tonight, because that would take an individual meeting. So this is educational, informational, and then, cover so that I can get that out there. A little bit about me. So my name is Jason. I actually live in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm on my second marriage. Between us, we have 6 kids and 2 grandkids. And we love to be with our family. We love to travel. In the top right there, I own a outdoor rock crawling type Jeep that I have a lot of fun with. But I'm also, as young as I might look, I am 44, and that still is young to a lot of you, but I have been doing this since 2000. So I've been in the financial arena in some way, shape, form, or another, education, advising, consulting, since 2000. So I might be young, but seen a lot of the ups and downs, been through that. I am a certified financial fiduciary, and you know, it's been a lot of fun. When I look at what we can do to help people plan for retirement, or what we can do to adjust some things in retirement, one of the things that a lot of people hear is that if you are trying to do it on your own, how successful can you be? And a lot of people can, right? There's some things that you can do. But when I'm talking about looking to and working with expertise, the reason that we put on these type of educational arenas is just to help people get some ideas, figure out maybe there's different ways to do things. Now, because of this setup in the hotel here, this video doesn't play, but this is a funny little clip, and it talks about, you know, making sure that Cameron Diaz doesn't get killed by these people that are after them. And of course, Tom Cruise is the hero, right? He's there to save her. And it basically says, you know, if you come with me, your chances of surviving are here. If you don't, it's here. And he does that a couple of times, and she's like, okay, fine, she follows him. And so what I'm saying here is that, you know, 4% of retirees are financially independent. And, you know, it doesn't mean that 96% of people are failing, but that you have a higher percentage and a higher chance of making it through by having somebody who you're working with. One of the analogies that I use is going to the dentist. We go to the dentist because that's their expertise. They know what to do to help work on your teeth. But as you work through that dentist, a lot of times when it's above and beyond his scope, he sends you to an orthodontist. And to get another opinion, to do another expertise on what they do and what they offer. And so as you work through, whether you're already working with an advisor or what it is that you're doing, right, there's different sets of expertise out there. There's different things and different ways to look at things. Now, the traditional retirement model used to be that we had a pension. And then on top of our pensions, we had our Social Security. And then we had our savings that almost became kind of our discretionary fund money. But that traditional retirement model is kind of broken now. A lot of the pensions have gone by the wayside. Most people don't have them anymore. And if you do, great, it's icing on the cake. But even some of those pensions that people have, there's some worry out there as to whether those are going to be able to continue to pay out. Social Security, well, we had a good bump this year. Looks like we're getting another good bump next year. But no matter how good those bumps are, they're never quite the same as what the cost of living increases. So we seem to be going backwards, and then those who haven't taken Social Security yet, there is this worry that it could be cut. So really, it's kind of on us now, right? It's up to us to have the savings. It's up to us to be able to put those things together. And how do we put those things together? How do we make sure that we have this guaranteed income that's going to pay out to us for the rest of our lives, no matter how long we live? Again, a lot of people talked about, or the advisors that they're working with, or putting money in their 401ks or their retirement plans through work. It's all about, hey, what can I do to get to this big, whatever, overarching number that's probably a personal number that's in your head that says, okay, if I can get to the $2.1 million mark, I should be able to live out to this rest of my life. Well, then you've got others out there who have different concepts, right? Dave Ramsey, right? And the way that he talks about planning for retirement. There's Jim Cramer again, right? And the way he talks about it. Well, for me, the way that I look at it is everybody has a story. And I'm passionate about this because I love to be able to sit down with people who are trying to figure something out. I look at it like this big puzzle, right? If we take all these big puzzle pieces and put together and make a beautiful picture we can hang on the wall, it brings hope back into our lives. It gives us an idea that says, hey, actually, I think I can make it. I think I can do it, right? And everybody has a story, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, everybody has a story. And so really what I want to focus on tonight is these 4 risk factors. There's a bunch of them on the screen, and we can talk about all of them for as long as you want, but the four main ones we want to focus on tonight is, one, the stock market, two, inflation. And when I was giving this presentation a couple of years ago, inflation wasn't as big of a deal as it is now. And now some of the things that I was saying a few years ago are really, really coming into play right now. So, you know, it's a great conversation and a scary one at the same time. And then income taxes. You know, how do we pay the taxes we have to, but be able to keep as much money as we possibly can if we can set things up right? And then longevity is just the multiplier, right? The longer we live, the more all of these things come into place, and the more all of these things we have to have a plan for. So it's not about how much you save, but it's about how much you get to spend, right? It's a lot more fun when we talk about going and seeing the kids and the grandkids and being able to go do the things you want and go to your sporting events, right? If you have the funds to spend. So when we're talking about a retirement plan, we're talking about a spending plan, right? What do I get to spend? How do I get to spend it? What can I do to make this exciting? So again, the only way for a successful retirement plan is through an income plan. And an income plan that protects you from those four key main risks that we brought up. So we call this the retirement income framework. I like to call it the retirement of your dreams. And if you go to my website, that's what it's called, is retirement of your dreams. It lets you kind of think about what that looks like, right? And be able to spend confidently regardless of the economy, right? Whatever is going on, even with the inflation, the way things are going, even with the stock market, the way things are going, if we have a plan that's going to make sure that we have income for the rest of our lives, what could that do for us? Well, in order to do that, if we could go through each of these 5 steps, it would be able to give us a pretty good framework to know what we can and can't do. So first off, we've got to identify where we're at, right? We've got to create that baseline, determining what we're looking at. Now, a lot of people have a junk drawer in their house, and as you look at all the things in the junk drawer, there's some important things in there, right? You've got your keys in there, you've got medicine in there, you've got, you know, things that you need. But when they're all just thrown in a drawer, it's kind of a mess. When I was giving this presentation a little while ago, the guy goes, he raised his hand and said, well, I don't have a junk drawer, I have a junk room where all of my stuff goes. And I thought that was kind of funny. But we seem to have the same issue in the financial drawer as well. I've got some Social Security, I think, over here coming in. I've set up a plan through work that I've been putting money into. I've got some IRAs here. I've got some life insurance here. But a lot of people just have these things all over the place, and it's not organized, right? It's kind of a junk drawer of finances. So we need to really kind of figure out where we're at. This is a quote from Robert Merton. He is a Nobel Prize winner, economist. He says, our approach to savings is all wrong. We need to think about monthly income, not net worth. So the way that I do this is I'm really going to ask you 2 questions. One, what do I need my retirement income to do? And then secondly, then what do I want it to do? So the first one, let's just put a number to it. Let's say that maybe what I needed to do is cover these essentials. If I know that my fixed expenses are about $5,000 per month, then I need at least that $5,000 a month to come in to cover those expenses. Then I have my discretionary, right? Anything I have above and beyond my fixed expenses. If my fixed expenses are covered, everything else is gravy. So we're going to call this essential bucket our protected income number. So if we can figure out what that protected income number is, that means that we have this amount coming in every single month as a fixed income to cover what's going out as our fixed expenses. And then everything above and beyond that is our discretionary. So once we identify that, we kind of create a baseline. We know what we're working from. And we no longer have our head in the sand like an ostrich that just says, I don't know, I don't want to look at it, it's scary, it's not fun, I don't want to figure it out. Then we got to figure out how to protect that. How to get maximized guaranteed lifetime income. So securing at least a base level of lifetime income should be every retiree's priority, at least if they want to live happily ever after, right? Time Magazine said it. Of course, we're going to be a lot happier. Life's going to be a lot better if we know that we have the money coming in every single month to cover our expenses going out. And that's all they're really getting at. So this is kind of a fun story. There's 4 college kids that just have this crazy idea. They're from the East Coast and they just want to fly out to Death Valley, and they want to go out there and they want to drive across Death Valley. I don't know why they want to do that, but it was just something they wanted to do. So they all fly out there, they go rent a car, they jump in the car, they're cruising down the road, they're playing the music, they're having a blast, it's great, it's going good. But then they come across the sign that says 115 miles to the next gas station. And they look down and they've only got a quarter tank of gas left. So all that fun kind of goes out the window and they all kind of start freaking out. And they're just kind of all yelling different ideas. Hey, let's turn the AC off so we can conserve as much. So we're going to have to roll down the windows. It's going to be super hot in here, but we've got to do that. Some of them are saying, hey, just push on the gas, let's go as fast as we can go so we can get as close as we can, and then we can coast as far as possible. And you're laughing, right? Because the other one's saying, no, if we hit the right speed, we can conserve and get as far as possible economy-wise, right? But they're all guessing because this is a rental car, right? They don't know what kind of gas mileage they're getting. I mean, today you can, right? You just push a little button and it tells you. But they didn't know. So where am I going with that? Well, we already talked about this a minute ago. Here's your answer. We said, depending on when you retire, how long are you planning for? Well, first off, no one knows that answer, right? Because none of us know how long we're going to live. But even if we took the averages, if we retire at 65 years old, 18 years, do you have an 18-year plan? Well, if you have an 18-year plan and you live 20 or 25 or 30, right? What good did that 18-year plan do? Females live longer than men, right? So if you're 65, 20. Now, happy couples tend to live a little bit longer, or there's 2 lifetimes, right? So do you have a 24-year plan? Well, 65 to basically 90 seems like it should be good. But if you outlive that age, what does that plan do? So really what you're looking for is this protected income. So let's define that real quick. I've used that term quite a bit throughout this. So when I say protected income, I'm saying it's guaranteed for life, right? No matter how long you and your spouse live, that there is an income coming in every single month for no matter how long you live. Not an 18-year plan, not a 25-year plan, for however long that is. Backed by a government or a financial institution to make sure that it can get paid out. But we need it to increase over time with inflation, right? Because if we have $1 million sitting in the bank account, and we're just living off of our checking account, and right now this year, inflation's up over 9%, we're actually going backwards with the cash that's sitting there, right? So we need it to increase with inflation. And then when we do start taking income from that, again, if the same amount comes to us every single month for 30 years, well, if that's not increasing, then we're going backwards on what we can buy because everything costs more. So really there are 3 sources of guaranteed income. You have pensions, which are great if you have them, as long as they keep paying out. You have Social Security, which should be good for those who take it, right? We get grandfathered in. And then we have an annuity as another source that we can add to these 2 to give us another stream of guaranteed protected income. So let's talk about Social Security real quick. So with Social Security, some of you may already know or already been through this, but just for the others, right? We can take Social Security anytime between the age of 62 and 70. There's a couple other things in there that can happen, but that's the main way that it works. But it's great because every year that we don't take it, it goes up by 8%, roughly. That's pretty good to have a guaranteed 8% increase every year, but it's only going up because you haven't taken income, right? You're not turned on that Social Security, it's not sending you money yet. So when do you take it? What's the best scenario? When should we take it? Well, everybody's in a different situation, but if we know that it's going to be X at 62, and if we know it's going to increase by 8% every single year until we're 70, at least we have something we can plan on. We have something that we can work with. Now, that does give us a little bit of inflation, right? Because like we said earlier, we do have a little bit of cost of living increases that happen with Social Security. Now, My dad is, will be 69 in December. He has not taken Social Security yet. He is waiting until he's 70. And Dad, why is that your decision? Why is that a decision you made?
Because I don't need the income. That's really what it comes down to. I don't need the income right now, and so I'm gonna max out the 8% increases. You guys were born. You're 3 years older than Jimmy, right?
46, 49.
46, 49. Okay.
We're already into all this.
Right. So yeah. So I'm gonna ask you a couple questions here. So if you guys had been born before 43. Social Security at that point in time was 60, 65, and 70. Then it switched it went up to age 54, then it switched to age 62, age 66, age 70. And everyone that was born after 54 to 60, they incrementally went up to age 67 to take that. Okay, so let me ask you guys, when did you start taking your Social Security?
Early.
You took it at what, age 60?
62.
62, okay.
I took mine at 64, wait a minute, 2010, 64, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so 64. So, did you take it because what was your decision behind you wanting to take that?
Well, in my case, my spouse passed away fairly early, so I took it as early as I could, even though got a little smaller percentage by doing that.
Okay,
And my husband's health was not so good. He was 5 years older than me. So he said he wished I wouldn't work so much, so I'd be home with him, which was good because he died 4 years later.
okay,
So I took it early.
okay,
I really didn't need, it didn't matter
okay.
financially.
Okay, so it didn't matter to you financially, but you decided to take it anyway,
I
so.
decided to take it when I was 64.
Okay,
I didn't
so-
go back to work after that.
All right, so your husband was he already taking Social Security?
No, he was working full time.
Okay, so he was working
worked
full-time
When he was 72.
when he passed away,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so would his Social Security have been more than your Social Security when you took it at age 64?
Oh, yes, much more.
And so, have you ever gone back to the Social Security and say, I want to take,
I got all of his social security when
That-
he
okay.
passed away.
that's what I'm talking
It was
about, okay.
wonderful. I didn't think I would because I took mine early, but they told me you can have it all. I was getting half of his.
Yep.
Mhm.
They said, even though I taken it early, you can have the whole thing. I said, thank you.
Okay, good. That's good, and I wanted to make sure of that because
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know that. So if you want to maximize your Social Security, so my wife is in that same position. So when I turn 70, she turns exactly 66 and a half, which is when she could take it. So we're going to maximize our Social Security.
She could actually take it up before that.
She could if she wanted to, but I said we want her to maximize out everything that we can. But I said if I pass away,
She'll still get the full thing.
then she can go get mine.
Yes.
And so yeah, so
I was
that's
very
excellent.
happy. I was thrilled.
All right, so Jimmy, so what about you and your spouse?
Well, I was 7 years younger than my spouse.
Okay.
She had a pulmonary embolism, was gone in 12 minutes.
Oh wow.
And,
Sorry.
so I was 61, not quite 62, when she passed away.
So he gets his wife's social.
Yeah, but see, I was a teacher, so I didn't always have a full-time
Yeah.
load.
Mhm.
She always did. She was a secretary for Raytheon.
Oh, okay.
Worked 25 years and had all, you gotta have these 10 years or 40 quarters of a certain model. She definitely had it, I did not.
Mhm.
So what I would, even though my quote hourly rate as a buyer, with my MBA, I was getting more per hour, but I didn't have that,
Yeah.
40
quarters.
quarters like she did. So I came out ahead by taking hers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and also Raytheon has pensions. So were you able to get half of her pension?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
all of it.
Okay. Yeah, there's a percentage you can get, or they could take less and then you could get more. So yeah, so that's it. Because I have a number of clients that work for Raytheon and Lockheed and those type of things too. So absolutely. So I just want to make sure you guys did it. I knew you were already taking it. You had to take it, by the time you turned 70 anyway.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that you're in the position where you're getting the maximum amount of Social Security you have.
Yes,
But
very
that-
lucky.
a lot of-
Pensions.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that, so I just want to make sure you guys are in good shape, okay?
Perfect. Yeah, and not everybody realizes that, but you guys answered the question, right? Well, why take it and, before 70 if we get more money at 70? Well, for a lot of reasons, right? If we can afford to get to 70, right? There's a Social Security maximizer report that can be done that basically says, based on longevity, when would be the best time to take it. Simple answer is if you need the money, you take it, or if it doesn't matter, you can take it. But by waiting longer, we can get a higher percentage, right? That over time, if we live long enough, right, we're going to get a lot more money by waiting until we're 70.
But
That depends on the.
But if you look at the amount that you're gonna get at 62, and then you have to wait till you're 66 or 67, most of those reports will show that you take 13 years to catch up
Yeah.
to the amount that you gave up from 62 to 66.
Yeah, well, I didn't hear about that, no.
Right.
I didn't even-
And for you,
Right.
it didn't matter.
And so I mean, it's there, but it takes that much longer to do it, and then if you have the assets to go even further, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't.
And I always ask people, how long did your parents live? How long did your grandparents live? Because sometimes that can play into it, because if they say, I'm probably gonna die when I'm 75, then why am I waiting?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and now, right, as before, a lot of people were banking on Social Security, but really, Social Security is about 40% of your annual pre-retirement earnings. So an individual, has to think, okay, well, if it's only gonna be 40% of what I was used to getting, how much am I looking to be able to spend while I'm in retirement? So that takes care of our Social Security. Now, on the annuity side, a lot of people ask really in general, what is an annuity? Simply put, it's a personal Social Security-like stream of guaranteed lifetime income from a top-rated insurance company.
Jimmy has an annuity, so
Yeah, I have.
we already know about.
Perfect. And so, again, with annuities, some of the ones from the past, people have said, I don't want annuities, I don't like annuities, I don't want to talk about annuities. And, annuities have changed a lot in these last
Yeah,
few
well,
years.
hang on a minute, how long ago did you purchase an annuity?
Right at
2010.
2010, right
2010.
after my wife passed.
So it's been 12 years since that annuity, purchase, okay.
And actually, except for this year,
It's been staying the same.
the amount's been going down. Well, the amount I get every month has stayed the same all
Your
purposes.
income.
But the actual amount that I have in the
Value.
annuity, beginning this year, has gone down like $15,000 because of the market. So it won't probably go down to zero, but if it were to go down to zero, then I'll go bye-bye.
Okay,
But
so-
meanwhile, I'm still getting that set amount every month.
Right, but that type, what do you know what type of annuity that is?
It's the type that when it goes down to zero, then he doesn't get it anymore.
Okay, all right, so here you,
Okay.
so.
So one of the things that we do talk about to go with that guaranteed income for life, right,
Right.
would be that same scenario. Because when we look at annuities, we're saying, okay, a couple of things. One, let's make sure we get paid. But two, if we're coming every month, what about having an annuity that's actually going to increase with us over time? That can never go to zero. It's a guaranteed payoff for the rest of our lives. And it has the potential of going up and hopefully trying to at least keep up with some sort of inflation. So we get that inflation protection, we get the monthly withdrawals, and a lot of people look at it and say, well, I don't know if I like annuities, right? I've heard a lot of these negative things between limited liquidity, surrender charges, different fees. Well, if we can get principal protection, right, where you can't lose money with the market, and it will never go to zero, right, with the guaranteed lifetime income, and it has the chance for the inflation protection, being able to earn money as you go. So my example with annuities is really kind of like computers, right? Well, you could buy a computer in 2010 to compare what you can get a computer today. They keep on getting better and better. And there are a lot of different companies out there who offer annuities. And so to try and get that market share, right, they're constantly trying to beat each other out and offer better products. And so what we could get 10 years ago, 6 years ago, 3 years ago, right, they keep coming out with more. And my dad and I were both independent, so we don't sell for just one company, we don't sell for just one type of annuity. And as these different ones come out, they keep beating each other, it gives us the opportunity to say, hey, we have these different ones that can help.
So Jimmy, it kinda sounds like you purchased what we call a variable annuity that can go up and down with how the market is.
Well, not what I get every month, but,
Right.
you know, if I started with a certain amount, let's just say 100,000, and it's down to 75,000 now because of the market, especially this year.
Right.
I'm still getting that same amount.
Right.
Now, if it goes down to zero, that's just,
You'll still get that, but you have the ability to lose principal in your.
I tell Grandma, he still get his money every month.
Okay.
As long as you get as long as you get your income in.
yeah, I get that same,
Right.
it never goes up or down with inflation, just the same amount.
Yeah.
Until it runs out, heaven forbid.
Right, till it runs out.
Those are older annuities and they come out with much better products
Yeah.
in the last 2 or 3 years, so continue.
Okay, so another quick story. So if you were to go to the bank and you were to ask the banker for a $50,000 loan, and he just basically says, okay, great, you've been banking here a long time, we know you guys, right? Here's a check for $50,000 and he hands it to you. We just walk out with that money, do you have a couple questions for him? Probably a couple questions, right? And, you know, same questions everybody asks, right? You know, what's the terms on this, right? What's the payback? What's the interest rate? Right? We're trying to figure out a couple of those things, but the banker's like, oh, don't worry about it. When we need the money, we'll come call on you for the money, we'll let you know what you owe us then. Right, we wouldn't do that, right?
No.
Well, when it comes to where we put our money in the different retirement buckets, this tends to be what happens for people. And what I mean by that is if you look at the historicals on our taxes. So most people that we talk to who have their money in retirement plans have their retirement money in tax deferred accounts, right? They didn't pay the taxes, they got put in up front, but they're gonna pay the taxes in the future when they start taking the money out of that.
Right.
Well, you said you wouldn't do that with a banker, but a lot of people do that with their retirement funds and with the taxes. In the sense that when you do start pulling that money out, Uncle Sam's gonna tell you what you owe him at that time, right? Because of whatever that tax bracket is that you are. So if we can control that and we can understand that before we get to that point, you know, maybe we have the ability to actually have more coming out per year and not worry about what Uncle Sam is gonna tell us that we owe him. Right now, we actually have some things in place that tell us exactly what's going on, and unless something drastic changes with our people in charge, we have given a specific time frame that we know taxes are going up. The Tax Cut and Jobs Act is gonna end here at the end of 2025. Taxes are going up January 1st, 2026, unless something crazy happens, but you don't usually get reelected when you come out and say you're gonna do X, Y, or Z when it comes to taxes. So more than likely, unless this gets delayed, we know taxes are going up. So it gives us a time frame between now and the end of 2025 to possibly make some changes to where our funds are and what the tax brackets that they're sitting in and what we can control. Now, a lot of people have this mindset that when they get to retirement, that they're gonna be able to live on less money. But one of the financial economist experts that I follow, he wrote a book called Payday to Playday. In other words, when you're working, most of the time we spend our money on the weekends, right? On our play days, when we go travel and play golf and go to concerts and everything else, we spend the money on the weekends. But when we retire, every day is a play day. Most people actually don't live on less in retirement than when they're working unless they have to. But one of the reasons is people think they're gonna be in a smaller tax bracket because they're living on less money. But what they don't realize is all of the things you had while you were working and while you were in those years that you had kids at home and got a child's exemption, whether they move back home and live with you or not, right? You don't get that exemption.
You're still there, right?
Yeah, there might be there, but you don't get a benefit on a tax right? I'm already in that same boat. Right? You know, hopefully your home's paid off in retirement. I mean, you will get the mortgage interest if it's not. But then the biggest one that people had was those qualified contributions that helped them defer some of those taxes. So if in retirement, now we don't have any of these deductions to be able to offset our income. And so oftentimes retirees find that they have pushed themselves into a higher tax bracket in retirement, when all along through their working years we're told that you're gonna be in a lower tax bracket when you get to retirement. So we work and figure out where these different things are, right? The 3 different tax buckets. What's in our taxable bucket that's getting taxed all the time? What's in our deferred bucket is gonna get taxed at whatever the income tax rate is at that time when we start pulling those funds, rather than today when we know what it is, versus what we have in a tax-free. What can we get on a tax-free basis? One of those is a Roth IRA. That is one of the best options out there to get the most tax advantage. Now, that still comes with some stipulations and some rules and some regulations. We just have to make sure that we're using it right and we're putting it in place at the right times. And maybe this is something for your kids that we need to look at, right? Rather than where you guys are at right now. But how do we utilize that? How do we set that up? What can we do? And really what that comes into play is the information that we see out there. If you were selling something and you're marketing something, you're trying to market to the most amount of people possible, right? You're gonna market to 75% of the population or 25%. Well, if you've got a product for the 75%, they have a better chance, right? So that's why we hear so much from the Susie Ormans and the Dave Ramseys of the world. Because they're talking to people who have the bottom 75% of the income earners in the United States. Because they're talking about people who have a money problem. We hear less about those of us who have a tax problem. Well, we put 86% of the taxes were paid by the top income earners. But they don't have an income problem, so we're not hearing about it. Now you may say, kid, that's good, right? Those that are higher income earners should pay the taxes. They should take care of that for us. The question is, what puts you in those brackets? Well, in 2020, we need to do some updates on this, but your adjusted gross household income, if you made above $83,682, puts you in that tax bracket that's gonna pay those taxes. Top 10% at 145. Usually when I show this, it's way lower than people expecting. They don't realize the bracket that they probably have already put themselves in. And that is not even going into how our Social Security gets taxed. And how, depending on what our income levels are, those thresholds or our provisional income, is causing our Social Security to be taxed, when maybe it doesn't have to be. And are we getting none of our Social Security taxed? Are we getting 85% of his count as income? Or are we getting 50% count as income? And those different thresholds to make sure that we have that structured the right way. And then of course we've got growing our surplus assets, right? What are we doing right now to try and grow those funds? Well, I'm gonna go through this pretty quick right now because we're in this scenario right now where the market's no good, right? And the question is, how do we manage that? Well, we know that the market's emotional, right? We always want to buy, we always want to get in when things are good, we want to get a piece of that pie. But it's no fun when the market goes down. And so emotionally, we tend to do the wrong thing, right? We all know the phrase, right? Buy low, sell high. We all know it. When we see that something's on sale, we stock up on it some more, right? Or we shop at Costco because you get the bulk discounts, right? We know that. But when it comes to investments, we can't seem to always be able to manage the emotion the same way. And we're like, oh, I can't miss out, right? Fear of missing out. I need to get some of this, right? Jim Cramer's telling me which stock I need to buy, right? I got to get some of that, right? And then sometimes we're selling because we're like, oh, I don't know if I can ride this out. I got to get out of this. Well, if we look at the markets, right, clear back, and we look and say, man, these dips don't look, I mean, they look pretty bad, but by comparison to the up years, man, those are way better. And the up years are way longer. So, no, that shouldn't be bad, right? We used to call it the buy and hold strategy. The last 10 or so years, it's now more the buy and hope, right? We're hoping it's gonna work out.
Where's 2008 on that chart? Yeah, right there.
Yeah, so early 2000, 2008, and then look at this one. This is even better. So if you look at the early 2000s, all the way through 2017-ish, if you had $100,000 sitting in the market, You didn't add to it, you didn't subtract from it, you just had it, right? This is just S&P 500, but if you had $100,000 sitting there in 2000, it was still $100,000 buying power 12 and a half years later. So you had zero gains in 12 and a half years because of the dips that happened, right? So here's a math question for you. Everybody loves math questions. So if the market does go down by 50%, roughly like it did in 2008, right? So you had $100,000 that went down by 50%, it was down to $50,000. If the market then returns the very next year 50%, right? We lost 50, we gained 50, but how much money do you have?
75,000.
75,000.
But you had it.
She looked at me, well, I was gonna say 100, right? I mean, no,
I know.
exactly, right? That's the math that we have to think about and say, well, no.
You do that.
So that's the years it took to try and even get that back. So we may have not lost money, we just lost time for our money to actually make money. And really, COVID, I don't think I have the slide. Yeah. COVID really threw a kink in things because people were like, well, the biggest crash worldwide, right? Everything gets shut down and we have this huge drop. We basically lost 1% a day for 35 days, right? We lost 35% of the market in 35 days. But then it came right back. And so that really threw a kink in things in the people I was talking to. They're like, well, okay, I want to keep my money in the market, right? Because if COVID's not going to shut everything down and we're going to have a rebound like we did, then I might as well keep my money in the market. And I said, well, more power to you. There's nothing I can do to change your mind. I can help you manage it if you want to, right? But whatever you want to do. Now, the question is this, though, and you guys have lived this, right? The question is not if the market will crash, but when and how many times will the stock market crash right before or right after retirement, right? We really call it the red zone, right? So if we have our football analogy, we've got the red zone. Really, it's the 5 years before and the 5 years after retirement. Right? We're trying to figure out if we can live off of the money that we've been acquiring, or if the crash happens before retirement, if we got to extend that retirement. We all have some scary stories from 2008, and now we've added some scary stories with the pandemic and so on, right? And so the question is, how can we get all of those things removed so we don't have those type of risks? So we don't have that risk. So we want a plan that's going to change as our life does. But we want it to be a guaranteed plan that we're not losing money as we go. So really, we talked about the current retirement savings model being broken, right? That triangle's flipped upside down. It's really on us to make sure that we're saving the right things. We talked about the only way for a successful retirement plan is through an income plan. But we need that income plan to make sure it covers the longevity, the stock market, the income, right, and our inflation. Those things that we got to make sure that we take care of. And talk about how we can use these 5 steps to be able to do that and be able to spend confidently in retirement.
My favorite guy.
Really?
I love him.
Oh, that's good.
You like him?
I do. Right? And I mean, he's got the best rule in the world, right?
He still lives in his original house that he bought like in 1850 or something.
Yeah.
Pretty
Still lives in
amazing.
it.
Pretty amazing. And what's his first rule? Never lose money.
Okay.
And what's rule number 2? Don't forget rule number 1. Right? I mean, to get any easier than that from one of the most successful investors of all time? Well, and the other analogy that I give is this, and this is kind of funny because I was just on a plane today flying in here to Dallas. But the question is, if you sat down on that plane and your pilot came over the plane and says, okay, now, we're going to be, let's go backwards, I'm flying back to Salt Lake from Dallas, right? We're going to be back in Salt Lake in about 3 hours from now. Well, what if he came on there, and you know that, I've done that flight no times, he says, well, looks like we're going to be in Salt Lake, about 3.5, 4, maybe 5 hours. You're thinking, well, what are you talking about? How is a plane ever an hour and a half off by, And he said, well, we're just not quite sure the success of this plane landing on the other end because the weather's really bad. Like, give us maybe a 20 or 30% chance of actually landing safely. You can stay in your seat and say, oh, Pilot's good, he knows what he's doing. No, right? We're all buckling, we're trying to get off the plane as quickly as possible. Well, what I'm talking about is what are we doing with our retirement, right? Are we guessing? Do we know kind of what it is that we can do? Have we done a shortfall analysis to make sure that we're not gonna run out of money, right? What is our percentage, what is our chance of making it? So, one of the ways that we do that is talk about how we help people, how we put some of these things we've been talking about into place. So this is just an example, 55-year-old, 52-year-old, currently making $150,000 a year. They want $120,000 a year coming in retirement so they can continue their lifestyle. They've got $1 million in investable assets and they're actually still working, so they're still contributing $30,000 a year. Currently, when we were talking to them, the only guaranteed source of income that they had was going to be from Social Security. They didn't have a pension, and everything else was based on the market. So we talked about repositioning $300,000 in investable assets into a fixed index annuity, right? Into a guaranteed annuity that's going to pay out for the rest of their life. They also looked and said everything they have is in that taxable now or tax deferred bucket. They had nothing in a tax-free bucket. So we said, okay, we want to redirect some of the continued payments that you're making, right? The investments that they're still doing because they're still working, and putting that into actually a permanent life insurance policy that's building cash value tax.
I don't understand why any of these places, I have quite a few municipal bonds. When I go to these places, nobody ever talks about those. And it's wonderful, they're wonderful.
They are wonderful.
Nobody ever brings it up.
I had it on the bottom of
Yeah,
my tax-free slide, you're right.
They're wonderful.
They are wonderful, and it depends on what state you have them in too.
Oh, I have them in all different states.
So they're all tax-free?
They were when my husband was working, as he was in a higher tax bracket, but now part of it's taxable. But I still keep them because I just love them.
Yeah, yeah, no, they're a great investment.
I get money every month from them.
Yeah, they're a great investment, and
I'm not gonna get rid of them because I love them.
That's
more
good.
power, yes,
That's
yes,
good. I mean,
why not?
I mean, right now, E-bonds and right now is 9%.
Well,
That's
they're not 9%, but it's good, it's very good. I've had them a long time.
Yeah, that's excellent, and I agree with you, and that is part of the strategy, that is something that we look at, because, again, we're looking for the best tax-free options that are out there. And there's only so much you can put
It was
into a
wonderful
Roth.
when my husband was working,
Exactly.
but not so good now, but I still love them.
And
Like I say, like your kids, right?
Yeah.
they're working, right? Well, I don't want to change something that's working. And so the other problem that they were looking at with them is everything they had, 100% of their savings was exposed to stock market
Oh,
volatility.
that's bad.
Now, they were still working, they still had a lot of money, they were putting a lot of money away, it had been working for them, so that's where they were at. We're like, oh boy. So if we can move some over, right, recommend some things that are giving you protected income to help you establish that expenses, this is what that did for them. The probability that they were going to run out of money in their lifetime, well, they had about a 60% chance of running out of money before they died. But if we said, if you live 10 years longer than the average lifetime, they only had a 75% chance that they were probably going to run out of money before they died if they lived 10 years longer than the average lifespan. Well, one, we have no idea how long we're going to live, but let's make a plan that doesn't matter, right? So as we shifted those things over and we created more of those, covered their protected income number, created more of those guaranteed lifetime income streams, it really didn't matter. Legally, we can't say 100%, but you know, if it never runs out, it never runs out, right? Now, the other problem that we're facing right now, and I think this is more relevant than it's ever been, this is David Walker, used to be basically the CPA for the United States. He served under 3 different presidents. Yep. He said, we're heading into a future where we'll have to double federal taxes or cut federal spending by 60%. Federal spending meaning Medicare and Social Security, right? And this was years ago he said this. He has repeated this since, and he's even at one point said 86%. So it just continues to get worse and worse. So what do? Well, we are just really here to help you get an idea, see if there's something that can be tweaked, see how things are going. There's no cost to sitting down with us. We don't charge you anything. This is just simply a complimentary overview and being able to put together a shortfall analysis that says, where are we at? What are we looking for? What problems we might run into that maybe we haven't looked at. We've got a couple different worksheets that we're gonna give out that let you put those things together, and if you have or haven't done it, then we have those so that you can. And really what that comes down to is I get the same questions almost every time. My first one I seem to get all the time is, what if I already work with an advisor? And my answer, like I said back at the beginning, that's fine, right? That doesn't matter. I'm not saying you get rid of your advisor and you use me. I'm saying you get a different set of eyes. Maybe you need that dentist and that orthodontist. I actually have a lot of clients who have 2 advisors. I've been into this, like I told you, since 2000, so going on 22 years now. And for me, I am really focused on and helping people make sure that they don't outlive their money. I used to work at Merrill Lynch right here in Arlington. And the whole point was to help people build and grow that nest egg. And that's what I was trying to do for the clients. And that's what most advisors do. But if we're not looking at that second half, and we're not finding an expert in someone who helps come down the mountain, right? Mount Everest, a lot of people have made it up, more people have died coming down, right? We want to make sure that we have that piece that's taken care of. And that's really where I come into play. And that's not saying that you even get rid of somebody. No, nothing's going to be sold at the appointment. There's no cost to you guys. We don't charge you anything. All of this is complimentary. And then how much do I need to have in savings? Simple answer is it doesn't matter, right? Not saying that it had to be like that example with $1 million client. It doesn't matter. The whole idea is, what do you have? How is it working for you? How can we make sure that you never outlive that money? So we have a couple of these sheets that we can hand out to you guys. We've got a booklet for you that we're going to send with you guys tonight. If there's something that we can look at to help, that would be great. Definitely have helped clients avoid hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes in retirement and not having those be such a problem. So I'll leave this last screen up just because it's kind of fun to kind of look at it and dream about and see. What are some of the places you guys want to visit? What's on your bucket list?
Well, mostly Europe. We've been there before, but we'd like to go there. We haven't gone since the pandemic.
Are you looking to go to more places than you've been, or do you want to revisit some of the ones you've done?
Well, a lot of them we went separately. We might go to some of the places together. We've only been married 4.5 years.
Yeah. This is a picture of Greece because this was my wife's bucket list.
Yes, that's on mine.
We had a planned trip to go to Europe. There's going to be 3 of my siblings, so 4 of us and our parents, and COVID shut that down.
We lost a trip that we had already paid for, and we never got the money back.
March 10th, 2020.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, so we were going to go to Europe, and then 3 of the siblings, they were all going to fly home after they went to France and the other areas, and me and my wife and my parents, we were going to go down to Greece. So my wife gets out their bucket list, and we're going to do a cruise out of Athens. So still on our bucket list, 100%. Well, luckily we didn't lose ours. That's sad to hear.
Well, we could have went sooner, but he didn't want to ride on a plane with people he didn't want to wear a mask on the plane.
We shifted ours, so now we're going to a cruise in March, end of February. Yeah, we switched to the Panama Canal, so still have it.
Yeah. Well,
as good as it used to be. So.
I've been to Greece, so it's not, that's already off my list, but I would still like to do that, yeah.
That's the 2 places we have either one of us.
One of my favorite songs. Well, I've never been to Spain, but I kinda like the music.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
Barcelona
We
is
haven't been to
wonderful.
Spain either. But I've been to a lot of the
You
countries.
gotta do Barcelona.
He said brought a lot.
I would
That's
have Latin
true, you've been
America,
all over.
all Latin America, never
Yeah.
in Europe, except for that when I was 3 years old in Germany.
But you don't remember that.
He's lived out of this country like half of his life.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so in the front cover, I'll leave you with this book. The front cover has my contact information. That's a little QR code that goes to my calendar to schedule something if you guys want to do that. And then the sheets that I was referring to, let me give you guys those two just so that you have them. The book is really cool because it helps you kind of think about a lot of the different things that you are already doing or how you're doing them, and then there's like questions and workbook type stuff as you go through it as well. So I'll let you guys keep that. If you wouldn't mind filling out those cards, we don't need both of you to, so if just one of you